This video might be a little bit all over the place, and I apologize in advance for the air conditioning sound, but it's hot and I need the AC. The reason why I say it's going to be a little bit all over the place is because today was my second Reflex Development class of all time. It was my first Reflex Development class here at Gracie University HQ. If you remember, or if you've been following my journey, you know that I first started at a CTC in Laguna Hills back in December. That school is no longer Gracie University. It's moved on to be something else. But before I left, they gave me the opportunity to try a Reflex Development class. And that video is somewhere over my head right now. However, I've said it before and I'll say it again. That school, that CTC or former CTC, did things a little bit differently. So I was excited and actually a bit nervous to see how Gracie University HQ did it. And I'm happy to report that today's class was freaking awesome. The schedule said it was a mount focus, which is why I'm here. And I'll tell you more on that later. It said it was a mount focus, and I was looking forward to that because, hey, I'm a big guy and mount is my jam. But it was not a mount focus. It was a standing focus, which was like the bane of my freaking existence. Let me explain. This video might turn into a little bit of a ramble, so I might have to edit it and make it a white belt rambling video as well. But let me just kind of put it all together, and I guess I can chop it up at a later date. But the reason why I say it could be white belt rambling is because, well, let's just take it back a little bit. Take it back to mid-June. Mid-June, someone that I like and respect, I talked about it on this page, I talked about it on my Instagram, talked to me and kind of called me out about my weight and my fitness level. They know my goals as far as becoming an instructor and having my own CTC someday. And so they challenged me to not just learn Jiu-Jitsu and be a leader in terms of teaching technique, but to be a leader in terms of lifestyle, fitness, how I appear and how I show up. And I'm happy to report that since then, what is that, June 18th, less than 2 months, I've lost 17 pounds, which is great. Hooray, 17-pound weight loss in less than 2 months. Holy mother of pearl, how did you pull that off, Chris? Well, I'll tell you. This isn't some like quick fix or super secretive method. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just telling you my experience, which is why I said this is a bit of a ramble. Obviously, I'm a big dude. I'm very heavy, and I'll probably end up revealing how much I weigh here shortly. But I've been doing the Ozempic thing. I got a little help from my friend Ozzy. I've said that before. I take Ozempic, and that's nice. That's what got me to 54 pounds weight loss so far from my highest. But Ozempic's not a magic wand. You still have to train. You still have to eat right. And so what I will say is, since June 18th, I started doing a high protein, because of Ozempic, low carb, pretty much keto diet. So that was working for me. I was working out quite a bit. I'm closing my rings every day, trying to get 10,000 steps. But then I did something a little bit different, perhaps even a little extreme. Well, as a matter of fact, let's just call it hard. I decided to do the 75 hard challenge. And if you don't know what that is, you can look it up. But 75 hard is this thing by a guy named Andy Frisella, I think that's his name. But it's a challenge where you have to read 10 pages of a nonfiction, self-help kind of a book every day. You have to drink a gallon of water every day. You have to do 2 workouts every day. Both of them have to be a minimum of 45 minutes, and one of the workouts has to be outside. The workouts can't be blended together. They have to be 3 hours apart. So you got to read. Oh, you got to follow a diet. No cheating, no cheat meals, no alcohol. You have to take a progress picture, a shirtless progress picture every day. There's all this criteria you have to do in order to meet these standards. And if you miss one thing, one freaking thing, you have to start over at day 1. And I liked the idea of this challenge because I like structure. I like framework. If you follow this channel, you know I'm king of the list, king of the spreadsheet. So I like structure. And this was a nice structure that let me stay focused and helped me go hard on my goals. But what ended up happening is it ended up making me feel bad. It gave me like anxiety. Like I'm chugging water at 11:58 p.m., right? I went and walked around the Irvine Spectrum at about 11:30 p.m. one night because I hadn't done my outside workout. Stuff like that. And I was doing a lot of things that are out of character, which I guess is good because I'm challenging myself and I'm pushing myself. But I had so much anxiety about it. And that's just probably my personality. I don't know if I have clinical anxiety or whatever, but just the way that my brain works, call it ADHD, whatever you want to call it, I was really just overly focused, hyper fixated, if you will, on checking all these things off my list. And if I was not following it to the letter of the law, I was overthinking the hell out of it. You know, if I had one more carb over my recommended carb, I was going, oh my God, I failed, you know? Things like that. You know, the idea of I can't have my workouts too close together, blah, blah, blah. And ultimately, it was kind of driving me crazy. When I say it was driving me crazy, I wasn't getting other things done that I should have been doing. My family life was suffering. My work was suffering because I was so focused on checking all these things off my list. And those things aren't necessarily bad, but the anxiety, the fear, and the panic that it induced is bad. Let me explain what I mean. Discipline is good. Having a plan is good. Having a checklist, a framework is good. Discipline is great. As a matter of fact, I think discipline is one of the best things in the world. But discipline without grace is punishment. Let me say that again. Discipline without grace is punishment. But discipline with grace is transformation. That sounds, I don't know, kind of profound. Write that down, okay? That's a Chris Dickens original. I actually thought of that last night and I Googled it, and I don't think anybody else has said it before, so maybe that's just me. But discipline without grace, without forgiveness, without a break, without wiggle room, that whole you didn't take your picture today, start over on day one. You didn't drink a whole gallon of water today, start over on day one. That's like punishment. And when I looked it up, 75 Hard has a lot of criticism from people who say it's, you know, overly strict, panic-inducing, anxiety-inducing. And I know what you're thinking. Some guys watching this are probably going, oh, that means you're soft. Well, I will be softer than Charmin because I felt with my personality type and the way that my brain works, I was overly focused on this 75 Hard thing. And so I believe in discipline. We need discipline. I trust in discipline. I respect discipline. But discipline without grace is just punishment. And I found myself beating up on myself in workouts, beating up on myself in water, beating up on myself in calorie counting, everything. It was just, I wasn't having fun. I didn't have any freaking joy, which brings me to today and today's Reflex Development. So today is Friday. On Wednesday, when I was still doing the 75 Hard, I needed to get a workout in that was going to be at least 45 minutes. So I went to my gym. Now, a lot of times I just lift weights myself and that's fantastic, but I want to push myself. I have a goal in mind in terms of weight loss, body type, whatever. So I want to push myself. And so I decided to do a workout that is very challenging. It's like what they call a HIIT workout, high intensity interval training. But this was no joke. At my gym, they call it CS4. I don't know what CS4 stands for, but let's just say it kicked my butt because it was, you know, every time I've done a CS4, it's like leg day. I've never done a CS4 class and it be upper body. I don't know why, but every time I show up, man, it's squats, it's lunges, it's goblet squats, it's step ups, it's all this stuff. So of course, when I went Wednesday, it was horrible, horribly good. Man, I burned some calories. I felt like a ninja when I was finished. But you know what happened yesterday? I had those baby giraffe legs. I had those jelly legs. Like, man, if you told me to do a flight of stairs right now or die, I'd probably ask you just for permission to call my wife before I said goodbye. Like, it's that kind of party. I couldn't hardly walk yesterday. Yesterday when I was doing my fair thing, if you follow my Instagram, you know what that's about. But yesterday when I was doing my fair thing, just walking to my job, my legs buckled a couple times because I really worked the bejesus out of my legs. We were sprinting on the treadmill. We were doing everything, y'all. And so today, when it came to Reflex Development, I was like, do I want to go? I'm really sore. I can barely walk. But I said, hell yeah, I'm going to go. And I'm going to go because it's Mount Day. Remember I said it's all going to make sense? I thought today was Mountain Day, which meant I was going to be on top of people or somebody's going to be on top of me. I wasn't going to have to use my legs all that much. That was my idea, my thought, my plan, my belief. However, Guido and Alex, our instructors today, had a different plan. And today was a standing focus, which meant I got to get up and stand up and get down and stand up and take down and stand up 100 million times. And my legs are talking to me. So although I planned to do the Master Cycle Fundamentals today, I didn't do it. I'm not ashamed. Part of me was embarrassed at first, but you know what? Hell to the nah. Grace is important. Discipline without grace is punishment, and discipline plus grace equals transformation, I think is what I said. I plan to do the Master Cycle Fundamentals class today. RD is first, Master Cycle Fundamentals is afterward. But I gotta tell you, after standing up and getting down and double legs and body folds and rear takedown and headlock counter and guillotine counter and squatting up and down and up and down and up. At the end of that hour, I was done. I'm still done, which is why I'm in here with the air conditioning on. So I said, hell to the no, I'm not doing Master Cycle Fundamentals today. So if I disappointed you, I'm sorry. But at least I got RD in. And since we're talking about RD, let me tell you what that was like. Today's Reflex Development class was fantastic because I got to reinforce a lot of the things that I've already learned. Of course, you have to have a good foundation to be able to get into Reflex Development, which is why they require you to do every class twice. So none of the moves were exactly a surprise for me, but there was a difference in focus. You know, I had a partner, his name is Min, a fantastic dude. He's an upper belt. I don't know what belt he is, but he had to borrow a gi today because he just came from work. He didn't have his gi. So I don't know what belt he is because today he looked like a white belt. But obviously the guy had experience. And we did everything from guillotine to guillotine defense, body fold takedown, headlock defense, double leg takedowns, you name it. We did every kind of standing takedown move in the world. But then the best part was at the end of class, we did kind of a round robin where we had to switch partners and just go through as many standing techniques that we can think of. And of course, when you get to the ground, you can do other things. I think we have to do one control and then one submission. So I got to run through a ton of things today. Americanas, arm bars, arm bar from twisting side control, arm bar from guard, triangles, punch block series. It was everything today. And it was freaking fantastic because it reinforces everything in a way that you don't get just drilling the techniques in class. There's a flow to it, and the flow makes all the difference. God, I loved it. There are a couple of things that I did that I wasn't sure about, like some indicators that I missed, like the hook sweep indicator. I missed it. And I was like, oh, snap, that's what you want me to do. Ta-da, hook sweep. And then another time I missed the indicator for the arm bar from guard. So there's some things that I recognize I need to work on, which is what Reflex Development is all about. It's about chaining moves together and better understanding how this thing flows. If you're going against somebody on the street who has no idea what they're doing, this is how things might actually flow. And then for the future, as you get into Jiu-Jitsu versus Jiu-Jitsu, you get a better feel for how things will flow from position to position, how you can avoid things, how you can get out of things, how you can reverse things. I mean, we didn't really do reversals, but you get the idea. I called it in the previous video, I think I called it 3-step sparring. And if you come from a traditional martial arts background, you know that you learn a reverse punch or a high block or a front snap kick, whatever. And then in three-step sparring, somebody throws a reverse punch to the nose and you high block and you switch your stance and then you throw like a, front snap kick or a side thrusting kick or whatever. The 3-step sparring helps you chain things together, and by chaining things together, it gives you muscle memory so that you can flow better. As a teacher myself, obviously, the way that we teach people, the way we get into the long-term memory is not to just repeat, but to chain and link things together, to link concepts and ideas together, and that's what Reflex Development does. And that's why Gracie University is so freaking fantastic, because their teaching style and their structure is rooted in scientific, fact-based pedagogy, the style and the way that people learn. And I'm like, son of a biscuit, this is fantastic. Which is why places like my old keep showing up, where you just show up and do whatever and just kind of struggle. It isn't as conducive to learning as the Gracie University method is, which is why I love this place, which is why I want to be an instructor, which is why I'm working out, which is why I'm grinding, which is why I need that discipline I talked about earlier. So all in all, Reflex Development was fan-freaking-tastic, but with the workout, with the soreness, with everything I talked about before, I did not do Master Cycle Fundamentals, and I talked about why. If I made this into a separate video, and I don't know if I will yet, check out the White Belt Rambling where I talk about discipline. But all in all, I love this place. I love what I'm learning. I love Reflex Development, and I will be back next week for more. So I think that's going to wrap it up today. One last thing I'll say about discipline is be kind to yourself. Obviously focus on your goals, go after it with, reckless abandon, but don't punish yourself, because weight loss, fitness, training shouldn't feel like punishment. It should feel like joy. It should feel like success. It should feel like winning. When I left Reflex Development today, I was tired, I was exhausted, but I felt like I won something. I learned something, I improved, and I got one step closer to my goal. You should feel like that when you're done training. And if your training or your fitness or your diet or whatever it is makes you feel bad or makes you feel crappy about yourself or makes you feel anxiety, that's not for you. That's not blessing you. That's not helping you. Discipline without grace is punishment, but discipline with grace is transformational. That's what I'm going to end on today. So if you have any questions, feelings, thoughts, opinions, let me know in the comments. You can hit me up on social media at Chris Learns Jiu-Jitsu. And now you know what you got to do. You got to do 3 things. You got to stay focused, you got to stay positive, and you always have to stay vigilant. See you next time.